Well, we're back again, and again, the reminder, you can look at the bottom of the video to get our description and links. And we got a link out to the big index of all these meetings. It's like 4.5 years of data. And there's the link to the YouTube page and link to the Slack page and various other links. So you can go dig through that stuff. It's always I would say it's almost always at the bottom of the YouTube video, and I post some of that to Slack, and then it gets appended into the big composite index that I just mentioned a few moments ago. So you can go look up stuff there. So one of the things that's coming up is back to Slack. We have to back up our Slack every 90 days, or we start losing data. And uh, the last time I did it, I told Al, put that on your calendar so we don't forget. And I didn't put it on my calendar. And he after one of the meetings, oh, by the way, just a reminder, the stuff's going to go away. So okay, I'll go look at it. And I thought, well, how do I know when exactly it is? Because they say it's the data's only there for 90 days. Well, that doesn't really solve all the problems. Let me make this a little bigger before I switch screens here. Okay, so let me go share screen. I want the screen. So on this screen, it looks like, oh, it's gonna do this edit thing again. Let me get rid of that. Okay, that should have got that out of the way. So anyway, back to the shared screen. I found this program. Oh, sorry for all the screwing around here, but so anyway, I found this page. I went out and searched for date calculators, and I found a calculator that will let you specify a date. So our last backup was done on 5/27/2025, and then you can add a specific number of days to it. So I just said 90 days, and then that pops up, and you do calculate, and it comes back and says August 25th is 90 days from when you did the last backup. And that means I need to look at it a few days ahead of time so I can get a slight overlap between the two so I don't lose a couple of messages on that last day. So anyway, I found this calculator and it's handy. And you can also come in and say something about including weekdays, or there's various settings you can do there. So if you just want weekdays, or you just want business days, you can probably set that up. But a lot of the things you go search for, it'll say, well, here's a start date and an end date, and then it'll tell you how many days elapsed in between there, which is not what I wanted. So it was handy to find this to give me specifically what I was looking for. And I'll put the link to this in the description for this month. So if anybody wants to do that, you can. So the next thing is, once I came up with that date that I wanted, I thought, well, how can I maintain this? I could either go to my calendar program and have it send me a message and say it's time to do this, or I thought, well, it'd be handy if I just had a post-it note on the screen. So down here in the corner, I've got this post-it note that I just simply found a program that will do post-it notes. And in fact, if we go to this screen, it says 6 best sticky notes apps for Linux. And if you dig through here, because I think Windows has one built right into it. You don't have to go track one down. But here's the one that said 6 best one, and there one that said 9 best. And if you look, there's a bunch of people telling you the best ways to do this. And I just scrolled down. I wanted one that's quick and dirty and easy to install. The very first one said Xpad. So I scrolled down. It says just do a sudo app install Xpad. And when you're done, it's just there and it works. And I was able, yeah, you just come over here. It's just like a notepad. I could just type stuff into it, and at any point you can come back and delete it out. So you got to be careful you don't erase everything. But just every time you turn the computer on, the sticky note comes back. If I do like a control and a move, it's like moving around on the screen. If I want to, you have to know the tricks to move it. But that's just another handy thing to have. It didn't save me because this morning I was sitting in front of the TV and I thought, oh, it's the 21st today. I was going to back up this stuff on either the 20th or the 21st. And I came over and looked at my post-it note. That's exactly what it said to do. So it didn't save me there. If the next time I turned the computer on, I would have noticed it there and think, oh yeah, I didn't do that. And that tells me I should also still go to a calendar program and have it send me, prod me with messages that way. So it just comes back to the fact that you've got computers and you're not in control of anything. And if you want them to help you, and they may or may not, depending on what's going on. So anyway, that was something else I was going to mention, that I found a way to put sticky notes on. If anybody's interested, I'll put a link to that in the description. And then the other thing, down here in the lower left-hand corner, I've got this giant clock, because I've got a laptop with a really tiny screen, and I got the big screen, and nowhere does it give me a time and date on my big screen up here. So I just went out and tracked this down, and it is this website, and it just simply, you can select different types of, I think you can select different types of clocks. Well, it's not going to do it right now. So under clocks, it's probably got, lots of different things you do. Anyway, I found that handy. I can put that there, and it's just a web page. So if I've got, it's a pinned tab on my browser, so it comes back every time I start up. Well, no, it comes back every time if I go into suspend and come back, it'll still be there. Now I have to be careful, because this may disappear. I think since it's a pinned tab, I think it'll come back anyway. Anyway, that's getting into way too much detail. The point is, I found a big clock I put on my screen, so I don't have to go like this and get real close to my laptop to find out what time it is. So that was another handy thing. I'll post a link to that one. And the other thing that came up, I'm not going to mention this week. Next week I'll try to prepare something about how AI is taking advantage of everyone. And I'm going to start using start doing quote AI, because AI is one of those phrases they made up that it means all things to all people, which means it's totally useless as a name. But anyway, I'm going to rant about that next time. And I did some ranting this morning, but I wasn't prepared to move on from there. So let's see, I think that's all I had to say. I think I was digging through Amazon. I got sometime during the week, I noticed that my clock, I've got a clock in my bedroom that's one of those WWVB clocks. So it reads the 60 kHz radio signal out of Fort Collins, Colorado, and keeps the time correct all the time. I've got one in my bedroom, or one in my bathroom, and one in my living room. And one of them I noticed was off by 4 hours one day. And I thought, well, that's odd. And sometime in the past, I had that happen once before at my old place, and I didn't bother to check. I didn't bother to mark them, so I don't know which clock it was that did it. And I didn't do any debugging, because on the screen it's got little pictures. Let me try this. Amazon, bring up a. Well, I've probably been searching for clocks on here, so let me say. And they use the term atomic clock, because the source of this is all an atomic clock out in Colorado somewhere, and then they broadcast this around the United States. But see, here's a typical what, and you can get these for $20. So I really have no reason not to just go out and buy another one to have, because it'd be handy to have another and replace my alarm clock in my bedroom. But see, on the thing right here, it shows a little picture of the like an antenna, and mine has some extra stuff around it. But mine mouse has a little icon that says OK, and if you press reset, then get here. Let's try this. So around here, this little radiated pattern, that'll start blinking while it's trying to lock on and get the signal. And then mine has a little OK button down here, and I don't know. So it could be, if I would have looked at some of that, it would say, oh, you got a bad signal, and you should, do something, not trust it or whatever. But the only thing I noticed was it was off by 4 hours, and I just simply took it out in the living room and poked at it and reset it. And when it finally came back, the time seemed to be correct again. And I was thinking, well, I could just, for years, I kept thinking I should build a clock. And I thought, well, a few weeks ago, we talked about not logic analyzers, oscilloscopes, using a small microcontroller and a display, or hooking up to your computer. And I bought that one display that was, let's see, it was just simply a display that you hook up, like one of these type thing. That's not the one it was, but it was, and it probably was something like this, where it's just a display. It was a 3.5-inch display, and had some particular controller built into it. So if you wired this thing up to a microcontroller chip, and then load somebody's library, you can put all these fancy things, and here they got a program just drawing patterns. And So I thought, well, you could get one of those, but then I ran across something on random nerd tutorials. I'm going to waste a lot of time here. Random nerd tutorials, ESP32. And I found that if I dug through, here, let's do this to get just a little bit closer. Clock. La, 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 la. He has 2 tutorials. Let's go right in here. And then I think I had to go to second page. Second page, he says. Well, somewhere here it has a thing that says, here's how you can make a tutorial to make a clock on a display. And he's using either, like I just mentioned, you just get a random display and wire it up to your processor, or you can get this board. You go out to Amazon, and it's an LCD display, and on the back of it, let's see, how can I find that relatively quickly? Let's just do this. Do this. Go back to Amazon. Paste this. There you go. This is going to be pictures too. We'll just grab I think it was this one I was looking. So for $17.98, so for $18 with free shipping, you can buy this thing. And it's an LCD display, and on the back of it, it's got your full, it's got an ESP32 on it, a bunch of connectors and so forth. So you don't even have to hook up, you don't have to hook 20 wires between these 2 boards. It just comes built right into it. So theoretically, you just plug into the USB port and use your Arduino IDE and write the code and load it onto this thing. And I would have liked to have the picture of the clock that he made, which wasn't all that elaborate. So anyway, for like $18, you can get one of these and don't have to do all the wiring. And if I go back, clock. I was hoping the search engine would be a little better at pulling up what I wanted, but apparently it's not going to. So he's got one article here on just the module itself and how you do it and how you load the code.
Go back one more screen. I saw some reference to real-time clock. I don't know if it was what you're looking for or not.
Was it under these links up here, maybe?
No, press the back button. So right below where your cursor is, yeah, there I saw.
It is. That's just a piece of it, I think.
Get time and set alarms.
Let me waste. Oh, speaking of cameras, I found I said I lost my other high def camera. Well, it turns out it was bolted to a tripod out of my garage, leaned up in the back corner. And when I went to move something, that fell over. Oh, there's my camera. So I have my extra camera now if I need to use that. So let's see, let's do this. Now, how do I get the access to the second page? Next page. There we go. And they should be right at the top. Oh, of course they're not. So if I back up one page and then say control, find clock. Not found. Oh, anyway. So anyway, the point is, here's a case where, I'm too lazy to build anything anymore. So if I can find somebody's tutorial and say, buy this board, load this code on it, and it gives you a clock. And it was displaying the hours, minutes, and seconds as a fairly big number. And below that, it had the date and time displayed. And then it also was smart enough. It told the ESP32 to log on to your local Wi-Fi and then go out to the internet and so once an hour, it would get the new time and then update the thing. So it always, the time would be there all the time. So basically that's what I needed. That's what I was trying to achieve this whole time. So I thought I might just order one of those, just if nothing else, just to play with. But it keeps coming back to the fact, do I want to spend almost $20 or do I just go out to Amazon and buy one of the $20 clocks that I know works? And that certainly would be quicker and simpler, and you still have to go through and configure it, but still, I don't have to go do all the screwing around to make this work. So it's always that dilemma. Do you just buy something or do you waste time by screwing around? But these look like they'd be real fun little things to play with because you can
Yeah, that's neat that it's got an ESP32 and the LCD monitor or whatever.
And one of these under the comments, it looks like it has very little I/O. I think maybe it's got 4 I/O pins here coming off the thing. So, and then here it says temperature and humidity. I don't know. They so far I haven't figured out what that means, but so it doesn't have a lot of I/O. But if you just want to put stuff on that can connect to the internet or Bluetooth and put something on a display, it'd be real handy for that. In fact, it might be perfect for that. So, so under the comments that people were making here, I think it might be this guy. No. See if I look at this one, just to give you an idea, he puts all this crap on his display and apparently has it connected to the internet or something. You can pull up the all of his the weather or whatever.
Nice.
So, and I was thinking, wow, I wonder if it's really is it a color display? And yeah, it turns out yes, it is a color display, but I found one where the guy went all out and showed. He said, "Oh, it's always such a pain because you can't do something." Here, this one here. If I do this and then do this, so if this shows up and plays, so that's I thought that's a fairly elaborate display to be putting on a little $20 board that you just load the code and it runs. So again, I don't know how well that came through, but it's if you just go to their web page and click on it, it's a nice smooth. Here, let me just run that again. It's nice and smooth, and there might be a couple pauses, but I think that was no, it's just running all the time. So anyway, so that again, that's something I ran across, and now I got to figure out how to get out of here. So let's say done with that, and go back to screen sharing and say stop sharing. So that's something I ran into and realized just that tutorial the guy puts out. He says, here's how you load the library to do the fancy graphics, and here's how you load the Arduino IDE to talk to it, and then just got a little program to do, keep an internal clock and then put the stuff on the display. And he's got the extra thing that says connect to your IP or connect to your access point and go out to the time server and get the time. So it's got all the pieces there. I thought it'd be handy if it had battery backup in there somewhere, but it apparently doesn't. So you start adding on all the little details like that, that may get to be a problem as you start adding stuff out. Again, you're adding the cost to everything. So, and back I was complaining about the participants not having enough people. Well, now I've got 3 participants. It's me and Bob twice, and Al is still not showing up on there. So again, it's just more of this funny stuff. So
I just tried logging in from the Raspberry Pi. That's why.
okay, did it let you do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I noticed there was a significant lag between what I'm seeing on the iPad and what I'm seeing on the Raspberry Pi.
And that might actually happen no matter what 2 computers you have. I don't know how Zoom does any of this stuff. So it may not specifically be the Raspberry Pi, but
okay, now
again, maybe it is.
On the Pi, now I can see you in real time and there is no lag.
Okay.
Yeah. And the picture's not too bad.
Are you running this on your if I may go down a hilarious not in it with people in stitches over this story, but are you using your flat screen TV on the Raspberry Pi?
Yeah.
And did you make it full screen? You just have a little screen that you're looking at for the
here, I'll show you.
Because especially if you got a giant screen like that, you're better off making the screen smaller on your TV, so you're not wasting so much processing time to make it work. And let's see, how do I say? Let's see. The problem is I've got the full screen. Let me go back to gallery view that we got a better chance of seeing what's going on.
Okay.
But yeah, on that,
Yeah.
if you drag that window smaller, the smaller it is, the faster it's going to update. So
Okay.
that's another thing. That's another thing to keep in mind.
Yep.
So the TV is driven by the Pi. That's what's plugged into that.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay, I made it smaller.
And whether you're watching movies or anything, just all the number crunching it has to do to display that, the larger you make it, the more it slows everything down. So,
Okay, good.
so just keep that in mind in the future.
Yep.
So you're actually running Zoom on a Raspberry Pi?
Yes, the Raspberry Pi 5. And what I'm thinking is in the future, it's easier to share my screen and what I'm doing on the Pi rather than using my iPad.
Yeah, and I'd say the only drawback to that is if it's too slow and locks up or whatever, then it's probably not worth doing. But if it's working
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
especially if you just want to say, I want to fire up and show you what I'm doing, and then not try to do the entire meeting on the Raspberry Pi, that
yeah,
because that might run into problems in the long run. But
right.
you can play with it and do
Right
whatever
now,
works.
right now, it looks like there is no lag between the two.
That might be some kind of buffering thing where it just
Yeah.
simply has to catch up, and now it's working okay again. So
Sure.
I don't know.
So I'm going to log that one off.
And if you want, you can leave it on just to see, if you want to do
Oh,
more
okay.
experiments as we go here. So,
Yeah.
because I don't see it causing any problems, so
Okay.
we'll just go for it, I guess.
Yeah.
And you have a separate camera, USB camera plugged into the Pi?
Yeah, it's a USB camera.
Nice.
Oh, now wait a minute. What's going on here? Oh, I'm just seeing the meeting.
On his Raspberry Pi, he's got both his audio and his video muted right now. So
Right.
it doesn't matter if he has a camera or not. He's got it turned off.
Right. Okay. So
If you unmute that, it might come up and say, "What do you want to use?" And you have to pick your web camera, and your web camera could be pointed somewhere
Okay.
weird right now, but it still might work. So
that picture is the USB camera attached to the Pi,
okay.
Nice.
and I've got it muted, and I think I get too much echo if I have it turned on.
Yeah, you don't want audio turned on, both of them.
Yeah, so I'll leave that one unmuted.
Okay. Yeah, that is something when you go to fire up a second computer and you forget about that, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden you turn it on, it starts squealing and echoing, and you think, oh damn, then you have to quickly hit it and get that to shut up. So,
Right.
and something else that just occurred to me was, since a Raspberry Pi has two monitor outputs, technically you could put two monitors on a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
And I've never tried that. I thought you're just asking for trouble to get too much stuff onto a Raspberry Pi, so I haven't even bothered.
Yeah.
But if I find another adapter cable around, I might try that one of these days. So
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
okay,
You all set, Jeff?
I'm done. Yeah.
Well, not a ton to share today. Let's go back to Slack. I've been trying to clean up my electronics board a little bit, and previously I had these components spread out on my wood board, and I started using these smaller double-sided proto boards and combining them using a little bit of 3D printed parts. I was up to here. This whole thing is about 12 inches long, and across there, that's probably about 6 inches. These screws are about 45 millimeters apart, so I forgot what the total size is in centimeters, but anyway, so I've added my 5 volt to, or 12 volt to 5 volt converter, added the IBT2, raised it up off the board because it's got a big heat sink on the back of that, added my 4-port relay deal that's driven by the IO pins. Still got some soldering to do with the wires underneath, shorten those wires. So I like it in the sense of I've got less wires whopping around. And then I took a Lightning C cable and coming out of the 5-volt converter to power the RPi, where previously I had a DIY deal plugged in here, but then wired into the terminal. So all in all, just trying to clean this up a little bit.
Can you zoom
And
in on that a little bit so we can see that cable you're just talking about?
sure.
Something to keep in mind on that, the USB-A cable coming out of that thing may not be rated for your 5 amps that you're looking for. And when you bought the cable, did it claim that it was rated at 5 amps or 18 gauge wire, whatever the tricks were on that?
Yeah, I don't remember. I'd have to look because as you can see, it's a rather short cable. And so I don't actually remember what the specs are on it. I assumed, hey, it's just a couple of inches here. It will survive. I put the power on from my desktop DC power deal, and it was only drawing for 5 watts up to 8 watts going into this. And then I checked my D messages over here and I wasn't getting any warnings about power. So at the moment, you're right. I could overload that cable, but I'm with this setup powering the GPS units and everything. It's looked like it spiked about 8 watts at just under 13 volts and was holding steady at 5 watts. Again, just under 12 volts.
And another thing to remember there on the Raspberry Pis, at least the older ones, the power light, if it didn't like the incoming power, it would blink or something. So that would be a quick visual indication if you're getting a power problem there. If you're running a desktop, they usually have something on the desktop that says your power is low, or at least the Raspberry Pi OS always had, they put a little lightning bolt up in the corner
Yeah,
if your voltage is too low, so
on
that's
the GUI.
something you can watch there. And I don't know if the Ubuntu stuff does that or not. And I don't know if you're even running that. I think you were, weren't you?
I have Ubuntu loaded in the full Ubuntu, so I could put it on a monitor and check it out. But that's why I just checked the D messages to see, because I've seen in the past a few power warnings flow through the D messages.
I was thinking the main one will come up as you're trying to boot the computer. And if it goes out and says, oh, you don't have a 5 amp power supply, because it does that negotiation, that there's just a one-time message that'll come up as you're booting. So at sometime right after you booted it up, go out and look at D message and search back through for your power messages and see if it says something there. Because theoretically, you should be getting that message every time, unless you've done something, gone into your maybe gone into your bash RC or somewhere and said, tell it to ignore the 5 amp warning or something. It seems like it should always complain, but I don't know. That's just some other thoughts that, sometime if you want to look at stuff, you could look at that.
So the next thing is this is the JRK linear actuator controller. So you don't see any wires coming out of this. I need to work out my wiring from this. There's a female header down underneath this. So I got some wiring to do on these guys, but that's what it's looking like.
Are
And
you using DuPont connectors or just
I mean, so
oh yeah, I see them. And then
there's I think guess you could call that that female header is a DuPont connector, maybe. I don't know if
okay.
you call that and there's, this has 5 pins, this has I think 6 pins. So the male, I've got a male pins, and then I just put some hot glue on there to keep the wires from flopping around.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't want anything moving around to give me
Right.
headaches around short circuits.
I like that idea. I might use it.
And then most of his wiring is done on the back of the board. So he just wired soldered point to point on the pin. So he didn't have connectors to fall off.
Okay.
And if you back up a few days in Slack, you'll see that he shows a picture of the back of the board.
Yeah.
So he shows the top of the board and then the bottom of the board. And you can see his wires are like say all of his GPS stuff is wired underneath, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't see anything on top, but as Jeff said, how do I get back? I mean, I've just, I've hardwired those so that I don't have anything moving around, and then mounted them on a 3D printed,
Okay.
5 millimeters high, 8 millimeters high, a small 3D printed holder to keep it all secure.
And I guess most of your connection to the GPS boards, you got each one has a USB cable coming in and you got two antenna cables coming in. So there's just the wires he's got are just local stuff to get his correction data back and forth at this point. So
Yeah.
he doesn't need a lot of wires on those GPS boards.
I mean, I've changed the cable, but yeah, this is the input and output, both for correction data and getting correction data off, or, well, getting correction data into BaseLink, which is this one, and getting heading off of this one is coming through these USB cables. So this was an earlier version when I didn't have the extendo board on here. So
on your current setup, when you're running the GPS, you're putting correction data into your base of your base moving baseline pair. I assume that's coming in over the USB connector. Is that right?
the Raspberry Pi picks it up on Wi-Fi on TCP IP port 6000, and then pushes it via USB into the BaseLink.
And then are you able to read the data back out at the same time while you're doing that?
Yes.
Okay. Because one time I had that same problem and I found somebody's interrupt client that runs as a ROS node. So I could start that up and it would get the correction data and publish as a ROS topic. And then I took the uBlocks driver that was talking to the USB board and I hacked that and put like 6 extra lines of code that says subscribe to this correction data as a topic and then multiplex that going out to your GPS board. So that's how I solved it when I was trying to do it that way. And then later I just moved on to doing it various other ways. So I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, this is well, that's teensy code. That's not what I'm looking for. This is what I'm calling this code runs on the RPi. I'm calling it the RTCM server. It's the one that grabs the correction data, pushes it to the F9P, and then just to make sure it's all sort of working, I have some test code just to listen to. This is my output port where I print out the lat lon, RTK status, and heading. And so this was, at the moment, I'm not using ROS for any of that. And I just arbitrarily chose a couple of these ports to pass data back and forth. So yeah. And then Jeff, you'd sent some bigger boards, which I like because at the moment I've got this gosh awful mess of multiple boards, but that's what I had lying around. So at some point I'll probably switch to bigger boards. But that's where I'm at, is messing around with my hardware connections and trying to get it all soldered up and working again.
And before we move on here, I'd like to try an experiment. So right now I'm running, well, it's doing a sharing mode, and I'm going to exit full screen. Oh, that worked out really well.
I haven't stopped sharing, but you can.
Just leave it the way you got it. So right now, if I say, right now apparently it's not full screen. I just went through and did that. And if I say full screen, so I just need some way to record this and then look at it later and see what happens. So if I say, now say exit full screen, then it makes the whole thing smaller, which I don't know. So I don't know how it's going to record. Let me just go back to full screen. That just prompts me in the video. So I'll go back and click full screen again. We got that. Okay, so you can, I'm done playing. You can go back to whatever you're doing now.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Bob, you got anything?
Oh, Bob, you turned off your second machine.
Yep, that don't need it right now.
I was excited about seeing that.
Maybe next time I'll be better organized, but thanks for the code anyway. Not much going on. I keep getting confused in nomachine about which names to use and how to use them for each device. So I was messing around with that, and of course I screwed everything up. But the nomachine people replied back fairly quickly. So now what I'm going to do is just get rid of everything and start all over now that I know what I'm doing.
Do you want to pull it up now?
No, that's okay. The other thing I did was experiment with cheese in my pan tilt environment. And I can't use cheese within the environment because it just takes over everything and I can't control anything. So I put cheese at the system level. Then I called up my environment, and then I can manipulate the servos to look around. And so that led me, next phase is I'm trying to look at all of the videos I can about implementing the arrow keys to control the servos. So that's the next step this week. Maybe I can share what I got with once I use the RPI, the Raspberry Pi as a Zoom station.
Cool.
And that's about it.
Do you want to describe what problems you were having with nomachine, or was just getting all confused in a generic sense?
I was trying to give it names, and then I said, well, no, I won't get that fancy. I'll just go back to call it RPI 5, and then call the other one iPad, and call the other one my Lenovo or my IdeaPad. And it started asking, so I got confused, so I threw all that away. And then I tried to start again, and it wouldn't let me enter my email. So I'm assuming that that's still working for the account, but then I forgot the password for it. So now as I go, folks at nomachine said, well, this is how you get rid of everything and start over. So at each step, I've got my little notebook, and each step I'm going to write everything down.
Yeah, it's probably not the most secure thing, but I use the same password for all of it just so I don't confuse myself.
Yeah, that's where I was getting screwed up. And it seems like they don't have on the iPad, I can't automatically preserve those passwords.
Hmm.
So I'll have to write them down and take a more structured approach to the whole thing instead of flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, I mean, what could also be going on, I know that gets confusing, is if the IP address changes every time you reboot the device, although on my network, they seem to, the local IP address tends to stay the same.
Yeah, that's what I've been noticing with the local behind our router is those seem to be fairly stable. I'm not even thinking about trying to go over the internet.
Yeah, I mean, if they're all just sitting there in your room, I wouldn't
Yeah.
worry about complicating your life more.
And I did look into the Roku TV, and you cannot put any kind of programming on it unless if I take another Raspberry Pi and connect it, then I might be able to do something. But it's
Yeah,
another monitor that's mirrored from the iPad at this point.
I would be out of my depth commenting on Roku TV. You're doing stuff I've never heard of on that.
I'd like to work around that idea of trying to mirror and just go right to it, but there's so many things to learn and keep straight.
Do you have a keyboard on your RPi now with the TV?
Yes. Well, I've got a mouse, a keyboard, USB, and I've got the which machine is it? It's a GE, I think, for plugged in for a monitor.
So when in doubt, you can just physically log on to your Raspberry Pi.
Right. And I don't know what I did right the first time before I started screwing everything up, but anyway, back to day one. That's about all I got.
I'm good, Jeff. You're on mute, Jeff.
As Bob was talking, I was trying to think, did that prompt me for anything I wanted to make comments on? But no, I can't think right offhand what they'd be. So I guess I'm done too.
Okay. Well, see you next week.
Okay.
Okay.